I always have to put the mic down. My dad said I should have sued the government for building the road too close to my butt. So I'm here today to tell you a story about Greater Dorchester. And full disclosure, this is my community, although I don't live there anymore. And for those of you that don't know the New Brunswick area, Dorchester is in between Memramcook, a francophone community, and Sackville, and is the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. It's on the Fundy Bay Biosphere. It's actually part of the reserve. It's a protected area and one of the richest ecosystems in the world. Now, it has this really rich history to it. And back in the mid-1700s, when there were only Mi'kmaq people there, the French and English arrived to battle over the region. And my slide is not moving. I'm sure there's 20 seconds up. And during that time, there was a lot of turmoil, and people were moved out of their communities, and so the Acadians were expelled, and the Indigenous people were put onto, at that time, called Fort Folly Reserve. Now, I'm really sure 20 seconds is, yeah, all right. You're fooling with me now, aren't you? All right, great. Do I get like 20 extra seconds now because of this? Maybe I can sing? No, you don't want me to do that, really? Okay. Thank you. There we go. And so during that time, the people were relocated and colonialism took full hold. At some point in time, the Acadians returned back to the area, but there was a very different time then. And so some of the early economic drivers in that time, this was the center of shipbuilding. It was the custom port of entry. It had all kinds of industry. It's where Mount Allison University came from. The Fathers of Confederation met there, came from there. And but then the era of the wooden shipbuilding ended. And so people lost employment, people started to move away, and so the government in its wisdom built a prison, and for about a century that was where people were employed. But then government policy shifted, things happened like bilingualism and different educational requirements, and so what happened was that the people in the local people could no longer work in that area. And so more people started to move away, and government policies continued to affect the municipality as well. So government in its wisdom built an industrial park, a chemical park, a fertilizer plant that could have blown up about 10 miles of the entire Memramcook Valley, and they put tens of millions of dollars into it. They built roads and railroads and this amazing floating dock. But then the tides changed, and they couldn't export anything out again. The floating docks wouldn't do it. And so the government abandoned the project, and more people moved away from our small rural community. But there was still a lot of vibrancy in the community, and there was still tourism, the history and the architecture and the Bay of Fundy and the cultures and the beautiful scenery and the amazing people there kept attracting people back. And so it was still a viable community, and it had still enough small businesses to make it worthwhile. But then the government built a new highway, and that highway completely bypassed the community. And not only did it bypass the community, but you weren't even allowed to put signs up on the highway to advertise your community. And then it went a little step farther, and it built a regional school, so we had to bus our kids about 15 kilometers every morning. And so that was the point where the economic decline reached a new low and population decline. People were telling their kids, move away, there's nothing for you here. Businesses closed. There was practically nothing left at some point in time. The gas stations, the convenience stores, everything started closing down. And that's when apathy really set in. People felt like there was just no way, it's beyond our control. We've tried everything, there's nothing we can do. Nobody cares anyhow, and I hate this place. And that was where people were at when something happened in the community that just woke everyone up. It was the unthinkable. It was finally something that happened that people just went, oh my God, we have to do something. And that something was that the government again announced the closure of the only school that was left in the community. And when that happened, people had had enough. And they stood up. 300 people in a little tiny community came together and said, we're not prepared to let this happen. This is the last straw. And it was the thing that rallied people together. And so they contacted us, some of the Cooperative Enterprise Council, and they contacted us and said, you know, what can we do? And we said, well, if you want to keep your school, you have to build the population, you have to build the economy. It's the only way to keep it open. And so we did all these strategic planning sessions. We identified the assets and the opportunities in the community. We developed an economic development strategy, and we appealed the decision, and we won. I remember this night, people coming home on the bus. I cried, I know I did. We were so happy to have the school open. But then, like so often happens, once the crisis is over, people went back to some of their own ways, and they stopped being engaged and stopped coming to meetings. But there was a small group of people that said, we're not going to let that happen. And they organized themselves as a Greater Dorchester Moving Forward Cooperative, and they began an entire strategy. They looked at all of the goals that the community had set, and they have worked their butts off. They worked on trails, they've worked on business development. These are some of the things that have happened. Now, this is in 3 years. They were building a world-class trail system that's connected to Fort Folly Medicine Trail. There's all kinds of new things that have happened. The Shepherdie Hall Music Hall. There's businesses that open. There's Airbnbs and bread and breakfasts and new kinds of, the convenience store is open, all kinds of things. Our school is now on the application process to become a UNESCO school. And if we have a UNESCO school, there's no way they can take our school away from us again. That's the end of the trail. And so over the last little while, we've seen things like the population grow, 25% increase in our school population in 1 year. Families moving in, homes selling like hotcakes. When we started this, you couldn't sell a home in that area. You could practically give it away, and now you can't buy them. People are moving from other provinces. We have a 15% inter-provincial move rate, which is 5 times the national average. And while we still got lots to do, there's no question about it, Greater Dorchester's moving forward. Thank you.